have to say, going back a dozen years when we started out with the RPA journey, there was some resistance to the idea of using these things. There were concerns about digital labour, those sorts of things. And austerity hit, and we had sort of this perfect storm from our point of view, if you will, of, we've got an increasingly complex environment. We need to do so much more. The resources are being squeezed. Our colleagues in the industry perhaps haven't been able to step up with the APIs and the interfaces that we all need, to actually get this data flowing, to get the information to the right place in the right way at the right time. And we have to, we can't wait. We've got to overcome those, those barriers to deliver the services that the citizens need and that in the commercial sector organisations need. I think it's worth stepping back and saying, in our view, what are the benefits of RPA? And we talk about scalability. We talk about, we need to create a digital workforce. We need to actually get a job done. And in fact, in this fast-moving world that we have, we need to be able to put up a service, and then tear it down 6 months later, and we have to be really agile about it. So we can scale and change these business processes, but we can do it ourselves in an agile way and use that, and using our own resources and things, not being beholden to the vast complex array of service providers that we use. Because if we think about it, any of the actual services we're delivering are actually involving multiple stakeholders in your organisations, but actual multiple organisations beyond the boundaries of your organisations and software vendors and the like. The other thing that RPA, I think, brings phenomenally, and it is often overlooked, is the quality of what it does. You train your robots properly, your quality is 100% every time. Obviously, if you give it duff information, the robot's going to repeat duff information. But the data quality can be relied upon. And one of the other speakers mentioned about trapping that and learning from that and taking that outcome. This is a phenomenal place to start gathering information in BI. And yes, the business agility, tearing things up, bringing them down, being very, very flexible within the business. What we see as use cases fall into sort of these 5 major categories. Process automation, we talked a lot about that. But we were born out of the need for data integration. For those of you, local government, lots of hands went up earlier. Do you remember IEG? And the Adapters Club, and we're all going to have APIs and interfaces, and Joe's talking about, for the vendors, sometimes it's just impossible to keep up. And we spend probably the majority of what we've been doing has been around just simple integration, CRMs, those sorts of things. And you've got a plethora of systems. How do we keep them in step? A lot of people doing synchronization or simple lift and shift. We want to migrate out of one system onto another platform, perhaps from on-premise into a solution in the cloud, something like that, and this cloud vendor doesn't have the flexibility and the interfaces to be able to get there. And one thing that's really, I find interesting, I love the big data, I love the idea that we need to share data, but I cannot allow you to see a full access to a social care record. Can't do that. But there are bits of information that we can extract or swap attributes and things like that, which a robot can do, because a robot doesn't gossip. It only gets what it's been told to do. Right? It doesn't share, it won't share inappropriate information. And we can use that to extract and mash up and bring data together. In the real world, to give a few examples from some of the projects we've been doing, up in Argyll and Bute, they worked out 70% of the calls coming into the social care team were not actually needing the handling by a qualified social worker. And they put them, therefore, they routed them through the contact centre. But obviously there are key cases which are known on the social care system, right, where it does require the administrations of a skilled social worker. And what they've got there is a lovely interplay where it comes into the contact centre, it flags back to the social care system. If there's a flag on it, it goes on, transfers on. The robot makes the decision, no, I've got to pass this on. Right? If there isn't a flag, it's just the fact that somebody doesn't need their domiciliary care that day because they're going to visit a relative. That's handled in the contact centre. Yeah? And so it's a nice interplay between the systems involving the human contact as well. Bob, I saw you earlier on. Medway, lift and shift, moved from one document management system to another document management system. No API, had to move from like 1.4, 1.6 million documents from one system to another. Simple lift, shift, done with all the metadata, and I think that took a team of 40 robots in like 9 days, just 24/7 hacking at it. At Norwich, somewhere? in the audience, the 26 different back office systems. How do we actually make sure that the names, the addresses on those systems match? And they did effectively a golden record project, just getting those balances. Now, if you change circumstances in one setting, then that's reflected in all those different systems. And that comes into play when you're looking at things like tell us once, where you get notification of a death, and we need to validate that we do or we do not have information on those people. And at Surrey, again, the social care arena, looked after children, where all the children in care are actually placed in the UK, are placed into a virtual school, in a virtual school programme run by the authority. And again, there's information that the social workers need from the education system and vice versa. And in that case, we're using the bot to just transfer select bits of information every day as it changes, so those records are up to date and not being done as a batch at the end of the month. But talking to the extraction point, what that means then is when DFE require their SIN census, for Surrey, that's automatic. All that data is just lifted and sent off, and they got praised last year for having the best data quality out of all the submissions from all the authorities. Right? So social workers know what's happening, education knows what's happening, all the diligence, and now they've done personal education plans and all these sorts of things as well. And something not very public sector. But I thought it's worth talking about, because somebody mentioned earlier on about how the data, the information that the public sector deal with is actually held by outside organisations. And we've been working for several years now with Balfour and a number of other construction companies, because they dig holes in roads. And if you're about to put the Kanga hammer into the hole in the road, you want to know what's underneath. Right? Now, this stunned me. There are 350 different providers of stuff under our feet. And if you're going to drill a hole, you need to go and interrogate those systems and find out those coordinates, what's under there. And they all run different systems. And they all present the data in different formats and different scales and all the rest of it. And they used to have teams, massive departments of people who would actually, go off and they'd sit there and they'd type in GPS coordinates again and again and again. And if you've got a fortnight to plan a job, that's fab. If you've been called out in an emergency and you're up to your knees in water with a Kanga hammer and the power cable's underneath you, you really want to know. You have not got 2 weeks to plan that job. Yeah, so now they've just automated that whole thing, put the coordinates in, and away you go. So, what makes a good process? Repetitive, well-structured, good, clear rules. Not fuzzy stuff. We're working towards the fuzzy stuff, but can you define the rules really carefully? And volumes. Go for the volume. You can do simple things that punch big. There are lots of processes out there where you're dealing with hundreds of thousands and millions of records. You'd be surprised. But I would come back to this, understand your baseline, understand where you are beginning, because it is about developing a centre of excellence, it is developing expertise in-house, and if you're going to actually develop that and get the credibility, you need to show and prove the difference you've made. And that last one, look, my wife would say before we had sat-nav, when I was lost, I'd just drive faster. I'd get lost at speed. Don't repeat a bad process, automate a bad process. It's a fantastic opportunity to look at that. Make sure you spend, look, the tech is simple. The tech is not the big thing. It's understanding the process, getting the storyboard there. Break down the complexity. Don't have these big, huge chains expecting one robot to do all this. Give different robots different tasks. That's what you do with your human staff, isn't it? Make sure you record everything so you can use your learning, and things will change. I think Joe mentioned it. But your processes will change, is the main thing. Forget the system vendors. The robots can take care of most of that change themselves. But it's your processes, your business will change. So keep it simple, test it thoroughly, plan it thoroughly. Yeah, think about management, think about security. Don't forget change control. We've got a thing. Come and see us. Have a look at the company on the website and have a look at YouTube.